Danny Harris pressed his face against the small window of the family transport pod, watching stars streak past like silver ribbons. His younger sister slept in the seat beside him, drooling on her stuffed animal. Their parents sat up front, talking quietly about their new home on the colony world. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed safe. Then the ship shook. Not a little bump. A violent, horrible shake that threw Danny against his safety straps. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red lights flashed everywhere. His mother twisted around in her seat, eyes wide with fear she tried to hide. "It's okay, sweetie," she said, but her voice cracked. "Just a small problem with the engines." The ship shook again. Harder this time. Danny heard metal grinding against metal, a sound that made his teeth hurt. His sister woke up crying. Through the window, he saw pieces of the ship flying off into space, burning as they tumbled away. "All passengers to emergency pods," a computerized voice announced. "This is not a drill. Proceed to emergency pods immediately." People ran through the hallways. Some screamed. Others moved in shocked silence. Danny's father grabbed his sister while his mother took Danny's hand. They pushed through the crowd toward the pod bay. So many people, so much noise. Danny lost sight of his parents for just a moment in the chaos. When he looked around, they were gone. "Mom!" "Dad!" Danny shouted, but his voice disappeared in the noise. People pushed past him. Someone knocked him sideways. He stumbled into an open pod entrance, the door hissed shut behind him. "No, wait." Danny pounded on the door, but it would not open. Through the small window, he saw his parents searching the crowd, mouths open, calling his name he could not hear. The pod launched. Danny flew backward as the pod shot away from the dying ship. He tumbled through the small space, hitting his head on a cabinet. Stars spun outside the window. The main ship grew smaller and smaller behind him. He could see other pods launching in all directions like seeds scattered by wind. His pod began to shake. Something was wrong with it, too. Sparks flew from a control panel. Smoke filled the air. Danny coughed and covered his mouth. The pod spun faster and faster. Then he heard it. An angry, worried sound from the cargo area. Brutus. Danny crawled across the tilting floor to the back of the pod. There, in a special travel carrier, sat his honey badger. The animal's black and white face pushed against the mesh door of the carrier. Brutus made that sound again, the one he made when something was wrong. "I know, boy," Danny said, opening the carrier. "I'm scared too." Brutus climbed out and pressed against Danny's chest. The boy hugged the animal tight. Brutus was not very big, about the size of a large cat, but he was heavy and solid. His fur was coarse under Danny's fingers. The honey badger's small eyes looked up at the boy with what seemed like understanding. The pod hit atmosphere. Fire covered the windows. The whole pod became an oven. Danny held Brutus and squeezed his eyes shut. He thought about his parents, his sister, whether he would ever see them again. The pod smashed through trees. Branches scraped against the hull like fingernails on metal. The pod bounced once, twice, 3 times. Then it slammed into something solid and stopped. Everything went quiet except for the ringing in Danny's ears. Danny opened his eyes. He was alive. Brutus squirmed in his arms, also alive. Smoke leaked from the control panel. The pod had tilted on its side. Through the cracked window, Danny saw thick jungle, strange plants with purple leaves, vines as thick as his arm. Everything glowed faintly in the dim light. "Where are we, Brutus?" The honey badger sniffed the air and growled softly. Not a scared growl, a suspicious one. Danny found the emergency supply locker and pulled out everything inside. A water purifier that looked okay, some protein bars in silver packages, a thermal blanket, a communicator that sparked when he picked it up. Broken. "Great," Danny whispered. He opened the pod door. It groaned on bent hinges but moved enough for him and Brutus to squeeze through. Outside, the air felt thick and warm. It smelled like earth and plants and something else he could not name. Strange insects buzzed past his head. In the distance, something howled. Brutus immediately began investigating the area. The honey badger sniffed trees, dug at the ground, and marked several spots. Danny watched his pet work. Brutus had always been curious, always fearless. His parents had found the orphaned badger kit 3 years ago and nursed it back to health. The animal had bonded with Danny and refused to leave the boy's side. "At least I have you," Danny said. As the sun set over the alien jungle, colors Danny had never seen before painted the sky. 2 moons rose in the east, one large and silver, one small and red. The plants around him began to glow brighter. casting everything in soft blue and green light. Danny pulled pieces of the pod's hull to make a small shelter against a tree. He spread the thermal blanket inside. Brutus brought him a strange fruit in his mouth, dropping it at Danny's feet. The boy did not know if it was safe to eat, so he saved his protein bars for now. Night fell completely. The jungle came alive with sounds, clicks and whistles, rustling in the undergrowth, things moving through the trees above. Danny sat with his back against the tree, Brutus curled in his lap. The honey badger's warmth made him feel less alone. "Tomorrow we'll look for help," Danny told Brutus. "Someone will come looking for survivors. We just have to wait." Brutus huffed as if he disagreed with waiting. Far above, beyond the atmosphere, a ship that was not human detected the crash site. In that ship, 5 hunters reviewed the scanner data. One of them smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "A human child," the hunter said. "Alone? This will be easy." The ship changed course toward the planet. Danny Harris had no idea that he was now being hunted. 3 days had passed since the crash. Danny had learned a few things about surviving on this strange planet. The purple fruits Brutus kept bringing him were safe to eat, though they tasted like sour apples mixed with dirt. The water from a nearby stream was clear enough that the purifier could handle it. And most importantly, the large 6-legged creatures that looked like wolves avoided Brutus completely. The honey badger had a way of making himself seem bigger than he was. When one of those wolf things got too close to their camp, Brutus would stand up straight, fluff out his fur, and make a sound Danny had never heard before. A mix between a growl and a scream that made even Danny want to run away. The wolf things always left. Danny had tried the broken communicator every hour. Nothing but static and occasional beeps. He knew his parents would be looking for him. He knew rescue teams would search. He just had to stay alive until they found him. "Maybe today," Danny said to Brutus as the sun rose on the 4th day. Brutus was acting strange. The honey badger kept sniffing the air, looking toward the north. His ears were flat against his head. Danny had seen this behavior before back home when strange dogs came near their yard. "What is it, boy?" Brutus growled. Danny climbed the tallest tree near their camp, something Brutus had taught him was smart to do. From up high, he could see far across the jungle, smoke from his small fire, the stream winding through the trees. And something else. Something that did not belong, a ship. Not human, too sleek, too angular. It floated above the trees about 2 kilometers away, moving slowly in Danny's direction. His heart jumped. Rescue, someone had found him. But then Brutus made that sound again. That warning sound. Danny looked closer at the ship. It did not move like a rescue ship. It moved like something hunting, scanning, searching, the way a cat moves through grass looking for mice. Danny climbed down fast, scraping his hands on the bark. Brutus met him at the bottom, pushing against his legs. "We need to hide," Danny whispered. He grabbed his supplies and stuffed them into the emergency pack. The thermal blanket, the water purifier, 3 protein bars left. He kicked dirt over the fire until no smoke rose. Brutus helped, using his claws to scatter the ashes. They moved deeper into the jungle, away from the pod crash site. Brutus led the way, choosing paths that were thick with vines and low branches. Places where something big would have trouble following. Behind them, Danny heard the ship land. He found a hollow in a massive tree trunk and squeezed inside. Brutus pushed in after him. Through a crack in the wood, Danny watched. 5 figures emerged from the ship. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. Scales covered their bodies, green and brown like snakes. Their heads were long and flat. Their eyes were yellow with vertical slits. Each one carried weapons and scanning devices. "Scaleborn," Danny whispered. He had seen pictures of them before in his school books about alien species. They were hunters, trackers. Some worked legally, helping colonies deal with dangerous animals. Others worked in the black markets, capturing rare creatures to sell. Danny had a bad feeling about which kind these were. The largest, Scaleborn, one with darker scales and scars across his face, pointed at Danny's old campsite. He said something in a language that sounded like rocks grinding together. The others spread out, examining the area. One of them found Brutus's scratching marks on a tree. Another found the remains of Danny's fire. A third picked up a protein bar wrapper Danny had dropped. The big one touched a device on his wrist. A hologram appeared in the air, showing human writing. The Scaleborn made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Human child," the big one said in rough, broken human speech. Small, alone, very valuable. Danny's blood turned cold. They were not rescue. They were here to catch him, to sell him. The Scaleborn started following his trail. They were good at it, too good. Their scanners picked up his footprints, broken branches, disturbed soil. They moved fast, organized like a pack. Brutus pressed closer to Danny in the hollow tree. The boy could feel the honey badger's heart beating fast. But Brutus did not seem scared. He seemed angry. The smallest Scaleborn walked right past their hiding spot, close enough that Danny could smell him like old leather and metal. The hunter scanned the area, his device beeping softly. For a moment, his yellow eyes looked right at the crack where Danny watched. Danny held his breath. Brutus's lips pulled back, showing teeth. The Scaleborn moved on, following the false trail Danny and Brutus had made by dragging a branch through the dirt. "No tracks this way," the small one called back. They went toward the stream. The others followed. Soon they were far enough away that Danny could breathe again. "That was close," he whispered to Brutus. But Brutus was not relaxed. The honey badger's whole body was tense. His small eyes were locked on the direction the Scaleborn had gone. Danny had seen this before, too. When a snake got into their yard back home. When an aggressive dog tried to attack Danny's sister. Brutus got this look, this focus. It was not fear. It was something else. It was the look of something deciding to fight. "No, Brutus," Danny said quietly, holding the honey badger. "There are 5 of them. They have weapons. We just need to hide until real rescue comes." Brutus made a soft churring sound but stayed still. They waited in the hollow tree as the sun moved across the sky. Danny could hear the Scaleborn in the distance calling to each other, searching. Once he heard the big one get angry, shouting at the others. As darkness fell, the hunters returned to their ship. Lights came on inside. They were setting up camp. They were not leaving. "They're going to keep looking tomorrow," Danny said. Brutus looked up at him. In the dim light, the honey badger's eyes seemed to say something. Something that made Danny both scared and hopeful. They would not make this easy. Dawn broke with strange bird calls echoing through the jungle. Danny had not slept well. Every sound made him jump. Every shadow looked like a Scaleborn hunter. Brutus had stayed awake all night, watching the darkness with those intense eyes. Now in the early light, the honey badger was pacing. Back and forth. Back and forth. Danny had never seen him like this. "We should move deeper into the jungle," Danny whispered. "Find somewhere they can't track us." Brutus stopped pacing and looked at Danny. Then he looked toward where the Scaleborn ship sat. Then back at Danny. "No," Danny said, understanding. "We're not going near them." "Are you crazy?" Brutus made a huffing sound and went back to pacing. Through the trees, Danny heard voices. The Scaleborn were starting their hunt again. He could hear their equipment beeping, their boots crunching through undergrowth. They were close. Too close. Danny grabbed his pack and started to climb a tree. It was thick with vines and had branches that grew close together, perfect for hiding. Brutus climbed after him, his claws giving him better grip than Danny's hands. They reached a spot about 30 feet up where 3 branches came together, forming a natural platform. Danny settled in, trying to stay quiet. Below, he could see movement through the leaves. A Scaleborn appeared. Not the big leader, a smaller one with lighter green scales. He carried a long weapon that glowed blue at one end. His scanner swept back and forth as he walked. The hunter stopped right under their tree. Danny's heart hammered so hard he was sure the Scaleborn would hear it. He put his hand on Brutus, trying to keep the honey badger calm. The Scaleborn touched his scanner, making it beep louder. He was looking at something on the screen. Then he looked up, right at Danny. Their eyes met. The Scaleborn's mouth opened in surprise. He raised his weapon. Brutus launched himself from the branch. The honey badger was a blur of black and white fur. He hit the Scaleborn's head with all 4 feet, claws extended. The hunter screamed and stumbled backward. His weapon fired, the blue beam hitting a tree and making it explode into splinters. Brutus rode the Scaleborn down like a cowboy on a bull. His claws found the seams in the hunter's armor. His teeth found the exposed neck scales. The Scaleborn thrashed and screamed, trying to throw Brutus off. "Brutus!" Danny yelled, but the honey badger was beyond hearing. He was all instinct now, all fury. The thick skin that covered his body protected him from the Scaleborn's attempts to grab him. When the hunter tried to punch Brutus, his fist just bounced off the tough hide. The Scaleborn's screams brought the others running. "Rish is down," one of them shouted. "Something attacked Rish," Brutus finally jumped off the fallen hunter and darted into the undergrowth. The scaleborn named Rish lay on the ground, his face shield shattered, bleeding from dozens of cuts. He was still breathing but not moving much. Danny slid down the tree on the opposite side and ran. He had no idea where Brutus had gone. He just ran, branches whipping his face, roots trying to trip him. Behind him he heard the other scaleborn shouting, "What did this?" "Some kind of animal." It was small. How did something so small do this? The big leader's voice cut through the others. Find it, and kill it. Then we take the human child." Danny ran until his lungs burned. He splashed through a stream, hoping it would hide his scent. He climbed over fallen logs and pushed through thorny vines that scratched his arms. Finally, he collapsed behind a boulder, gasping for air. A minute later, Brutus appeared. The honey badger's mouth was stained with alien blood. He looked pleased with himself. "You're insane," Danny wheezed. "You attacked an armed alien twice your size." Brutus sat down and started cleaning his claws like nothing had happened. Danny checked his supplies. Still had the water purifier. Still had 2 protein bars. Still had the broken communicator and the thermal blanket. He pulled out the communicator and tried it again. Static. Then a beep. Then a voice, broken and far away. "Search teams deployed. Survivors. Respond if..." "Hello?" Danny shouted into the communicator. "Hello, can you hear me?" "I'm Danny Harris." "I'm alive." More static. The voice again. A signal detected, triangulating, then nothing. The communicator died completely, its battery finally giving up. But it was enough. Someone had heard him. Rescue teams were looking. He just had to survive long enough for them to find him. "Did you hear that, Brutus?" "Help is coming!" Brutus was not listening. His ears were up, facing back the way they had come. He growled softly. Through the trees, Danny saw lights moving. Flashlights or glowing weapons. The scaleborn were tracking them. 4 of them now, since one was hurt. "You made them angry," Danny said. Brutus growled again, louder this time. The lights got closer. Danny could hear their voices now, speaking in that grinding rock language. One of them said something that made the others laugh. It was not a nice laugh. Danny looked around frantically. The boulder they hid behind was not big enough. The trees were too thin here to climb quickly. The stream was shallow and offered no cover. They were trapped. The first scaleborn came into view. It was a female with dark brown scales and armor that looked newer than the others. She held a weapon in both hands, sweeping it back and forth. Her yellow eyes scanned the area methodically. She saw Danny. "There," she shouted. The other 3 scaleborn rushed forward. Danny stood up, hands raised, trying to look non-threatening. Maybe if he surrendered, they would not hurt him. Maybe they would just take him to their ship and he could escape later. But Brutus had different ideas. The honey badger charged. Not at the female in front, but at one of the males coming from the side. The scaleborn did not see Brutus until it was too late. The honey badger went low, biting at the hunter's ankle where the armor was thin. The scaleborn howled and fell sideways into the stream. His armor sparked and smoked as water got into the electronics. He thrashed in the shallow water, trying to get up, but his suit was malfunctioning. The current, weak as it was, started dragging him downstream toward where the water got faster and deeper. "Voss!" the female shouted. She ran toward the stream to help her teammate. That left 2 scaleborn focused on Danny, the big leader and 1 other, and Brutus was already moving again. The big scaleborn leader, who the others called Grath, raised his weapon at Danny. It was bigger than the others, with multiple barrels that glowed an angry red color. Danny had seen weapons like this in movies. They were not stun guns. They were meant to kill. "Stop running, human child," Grath said in his broken human speech. "Make this easy. We not want to hurt you." "Much?" Danny backed away slowly. His foot hit a rock. Behind him was a cliff he had not noticed before. Not a big one, maybe 20 feet down, but enough to hurt if he fell. He was trapped between the cliff and the hunters. Brutus circled around, trying to get behind Grath. The big scaleborn saw the movement and kicked at the honey badger. His boot connected with Brutus's side, sending the animal tumbling. "Brutus!" Danny screamed. The honey badger hit the ground hard but rolled to his feet immediately. He shook himself and charged again, this time at the other scaleborn, a male with orange markings on his scales. This hunter was ready. He swung his weapon like a club, hitting Brutus in midair. The honey badger yelped and fell. Danny felt something break inside him. Not physically. Something else. The fear that had kept him running, kept him hiding, turned into anger. These creatures were trying to capture him, to sell him. And now they were hurting his best friend. He picked up a rock and threw it as hard as he could. The rock hit Grath's weapon, knocking it sideways just as he fired. The red beam went wide, hitting a tree that burst into flames. Grath roared in anger and swung the weapon back toward Danny. But Danny was already moving. He grabbed more rocks, throwing them one after another. Most missed, but a few hit their targets. The Scaleborn ducked and cursed in their grinding language. Brutus used the distraction. He attacked the orange-marked hunter from behind, climbing up the back of his armor like it was a tree. The Scaleborn spun around trying to reach the honey badger, but Brutus was too fast. He bit down on the flexible joint where the helmet met the body armor. The hunter screamed and fell to his knees. "Enough," Grath bellowed. He fired his weapon at the ground near Brutus. The explosion threw dirt and rocks everywhere. Brutus flew backward, tumbling toward the cliff edge. "No!" Danny dove forward and caught Brutus just before the honey badger went over. The animal was dazed, blood on his fur, but still breathing. Grath walked toward them, weapon pointed at Danny's chest. The big Scaleborn's eyes were cold and angry. "You cost me 3 hunters," Grath said. 2 injured badly, 1 lost in river. Boss will not be happy. Price for you just went up to cover losses." Danny held Brutus close. The honey badger was trying to get up, trying to fight, but he was hurt. Danny could feel him shaking. "Leave us alone," Danny said, his voice small and scared. "We didn't do anything to you." "You exist," Grath said. "That is enough. Humans are rare. Humans are valuable. You will make me rich." The female Scaleborn who had gone after Voss came back through the trees. She was wet and looked tired. "Voss is gone," she said. "Current took him into deep water. His suit dragged him down. Could not reach him in time." Grath's hand tightened on his weapon. "Then we are 3 now. Rish is hurt badly. Voss is dead, all because of child and small animal." "Is not small animal," the female said, looking at Brutus with something like respect. "Research shows it is honey badger from Earth. They are known as most fearless creatures. Will fight anything, any size. Thick skin protects them. Do not feel pain like other animals. This one protects the child." "Then we kill it first," Grath decided. He aimed at Brutus. Danny did the only thing he could think of. He jumped off the cliff, holding Brutus tight. The fall was shorter than he expected. He hit water, cold and shocking. The pond at the bottom of the cliff was deep enough that he did not hit the bottom. He kicked upward, breaking the surface, gasping for air. Brutus paddled beside him, fully alert now. Fear and cold water had woken him up completely. Together they swam for the far side of the pond. Above them, Grath appeared at the cliff edge. He fired his weapon, but they were already too far away. The beam hit the water, making it boil and steam. "After them," Grath ordered. Danny and Brutus climbed out on the far bank and ran. They were in a new part of the jungle now, one they had not seen before. The ground was rocky and uneven. Steam rose from cracks in the earth. The air smelled like sulfur. Volcanic vents, Danny remembered from his school lessons. The ground could be unstable here. Brutus seemed to understand. The honey badger tested each step carefully, sniffing the ground. Danny followed his lead, stepping only where Brutus stepped. Behind them, they heard the Scaleborn coming. The hunters were not being as careful. One of them, the orange-marked one, stepped on a weak spot. The ground gave way beneath him, and he fell into a hole full of sharp volcanic rock and steaming water. His screams were horrible. "Drex!" the female called. She ran to help him, but the ground around the hole cracked. She jumped back just in time. Grath stood at the edge of the volcanic field, watching his team fall apart. 2 hunters injured in the first attack. 1 drowned. 1 fallen into volcanic vent. Only him and the female, whose name was Sella, remained. "This is your fault, human child," Grath shouted across the steaming rocks. "You will pay for my losses. When I catch you, and I will catch you, you will wish you had surrendered." But Danny was not listening. He and Brutus had found a narrow path through the volcanic field, one that led into a system of caves. The caves were warm but stable. Most importantly, they were too small for the big Scaleborn to follow easily. Inside the cave, Danny finally stopped to check Brutus over. The honey badger had cuts and bruises, and one of his legs was limping. But his eyes were still bright, still fierce. "You saved me," Danny said, hugging the animal gently. "Multiple times now. I don't know how you keep doing it." Brutus licked Danny's face, then growled softly toward the cave entrance. He was saying they were not safe yet. The hunters would find another way in. Danny looked around the cave system. It went deeper, branching off in multiple directions. Some tunnels led up.
Some led down.
It would be easy to get lost in here, but it would also be easy to hide. And maybe if they were smart, they could use these caves to their advantage. For the first time since the Scaleborn arrived, Danny felt something other than fear. He felt determined. He felt clever. He looked at Brutus and saw the same look in the honey badger's eyes. They were done running. It was time to turn this hunt around. The caves were a maze. Danny and Brutus spent hours exploring, finding the paths that connected, the dead ends, the places where water dripped from the ceiling into small pools. Danny's mind was working in ways it never had before. He was thinking like prey that had decided to become a predator. "Brutus, look at this," Danny whispered. He had found a place where the cave ceiling was covered in loose stalactites. The rock formations hung down like teeth, held in place by centuries of mineral deposits. But some of them looked fragile. One good shake might bring them down. Danny tested a few by throwing pebbles. Sure enough, one small impact made a stalactite crack and fall, shattering on the cave floor. "If we can get them to stand right here," Danny said, pointing to a spot beneath the worst section, "and then make these fall somehow." Brutus sniffed the area, then looked up at the stalactites. The honey badger made a sound that seemed approving. They heard voices echoing through the caves. Grath and Sella had found a way in. The Scaleborn were being cautious now, testing each step, weapons ready. They had learned to respect their prey. "Human child," Grath's voice boomed through the tunnels. "You make things harder than they need to be. We will find you. These caves are not infinite. You will run out of places to hide." Danny picked up a rock and threw it down a different tunnel, making it clatter and echo. Grath and Sella immediately moved toward that sound. Good. They could be fooled. For the next hour, Danny played a game of cat and mouse with the hunters. He would make noise in one tunnel, then quickly double back through another. He used Brutus as a scout, letting the honey badger check paths before committing to them. The Scaleborn grew increasingly frustrated. "They are toying with us," Sela said, her voice carrying through the caves. "A child and an animal are making us look like fools." "Quiet," Grath snapped. "I am tired of this. We use the tracker bombs." Danny heard a high-pitched whine. He knew that sound from educational videos about alien technology. Tracker bombs were small devices that would fly through areas, mapping them and locating life signs. Once they found a target, they would explode with a stun charge. 3 small orbs floated into the cave system, emitting soft blue light. They moved with purpose, scanning everything. "Run!" Danny whispered to Brutus. They fled deeper into the caves, but the tracker bombs were fast. One of them locked onto their heat signature and pursued. Its whine got higher and higher as it charged up. Brutus turned and jumped, catching the tracker bomb in his jaws. He bit down hard. The device exploded. The blast threw Brutus backward into Danny. They both tumbled into a side tunnel, ears ringing, vision blurred. Danny's head hit rock and stars exploded behind his eyes. When his vision cleared, he saw Brutus lying still. The honey badger's fur was singed. He was breathing but not moving. "No, no, no," Danny whispered, crawling to his friend. "Brutus, please. Wake up!" The other 2 tracker bombs were getting closer. Danny could hear their whine. He looked around desperately. They were in a dead-end tunnel. No way out except past the bombs. Then he saw it. A crack in the wall, narrow and dark. Maybe big enough for a boy and a honey badger to squeeze through. Maybe. Danny grabbed Brutus and pulled him toward the crack. The honey badger was heavier than he looked, and Danny's arms were tired, but he did not stop. He pushed Brutus into the crack first, then followed, scraping his skin on rough rock. The tracker bombs reached the dead end and scanned, but the crack was too small for their sensors. After a moment, they moved on, searching elsewhere. Danny lay in the darkness, holding Brutus, trying not to cry. The honey badger's chest rose and fell slowly. He was alive but hurt. Danny had to protect him now, the way Brutus had protected Danny. The crack opened into a larger chamber on the other side. This cave was different. Natural light came through holes in the ceiling. Water collected in a pool at the center. And most importantly, it had multiple exits. Danny carried Brutus to the water and gently cleaned the burnt fur. The honey badger's eyes opened slightly. "Hey, boy," Danny said softly. "You caught a bomb with your teeth. That was either the bravest or the dumbest thing I've ever seen." Brutus made a weak sound that might have been a laugh. While Brutus rested, Danny scouted the chamber. He found the perfect spot near one exit, where the stalactites were thickest and most unstable. He found rocks he could throw. He found places to hide. He was ready. Danny went back to Brutus and knelt beside him. The honey badger was looking better, more alert. Tough as always. "I need you to do something for me," Danny said. "I need you to lead them here. To this spot. Can you do that?" Brutus looked at him with those intense eyes. The honey badger understood. He always did. "Then hide," Danny continued. "Let me handle the rest. You've done enough. You've saved me so many times. Let me save us both this time." Brutus stood up shakily. He licked Danny's face once, then limped toward one of the tunnels. The honey badger was going to find the Scaleborn and bring them here. Danny climbed up to a high ledge where he could see the whole chamber. He gathered his rocks. He prepared his throwing arm. And he waited. 10 minutes later, he heard movement. Brutus appeared, moving slower than usual, but with purpose. Behind him came Grath and Scylla, weapons raised, tracking the wounded animal. "There," Scylla pointed. "The beast is injured. The child must be close." They followed Brutus into the chamber. The honey badger led them exactly where Danny needed them, right under the unstable stalactites. Then Brutus darted to safety, disappearing into a small crevice. Grath and Scylla stopped, looking around. Their weapons scanned the area. "Human child," Grath called. "We know you are here. Your pet has led us to you. Surrender now and we will not hurt you more than necessary." Danny stood up on his ledge, visible to both hunters. "You're right," Danny said. "I'm here. And I'm done being hunted." He threw his first rock, not at the Scaleborn. At the ceiling above them, the rock hit a stalactite. It cracked but did not fall. Grath and Scylla looked up, understanding flooding their faces. "Move," Grath shouted. Danny threw another rock, then another. The stalactites began to break. One fell, then two, then a dozen. The ceiling was coming down in a rain of stone teeth. Grath managed to dive out of the way, rolling toward an exit. But Scylla was not as fast. A large stalactite hit her shoulder, crushing her armor and pinning her to the ground. She screamed. Grath reached for her, but more rocks were falling. He had to choose between saving himself or his teammate. He chose himself, running for the exit as the ceiling collapsed. When the dust settled, Scylla lay trapped under rocks, unconscious but breathing. Grath was nowhere to be seen. Danny climbed down from his ledge. Brutus emerged from his hiding spot. Together they looked at the trapped hunter. "We should help her," Danny said. "We're not like them." But before they could move, Grath's voice came from the tunnel entrance. "Very clever, human child," the big Scaleborn said. "You have defeated my entire team. 4 hunters lost to a child and an earth animal. My reputation is destroyed. My profit is gone." Grath stepped into the light. His armor was damaged, sparking in places. His weapon was powered up to maximum, glowing brighter than ever before. "I am calling for extraction," Grath said. "My ship comes in 1 hour. I will leave this cursed planet. But first I will kill you both. Not capture, kill. You have cost me too much." He aimed his weapon at Danny. "Say goodbye to your pet." The weapon fired. The red beam never reached Danny. Brutus, despite his injuries, launched himself between the boy and the weapon. The beam hit the honey badger in midair and he fell. "Brutus," Danny screamed. But the honey badger was already getting up. The thick skin that had protected him from so much before had saved him again. The beam had burned his fur and hurt him, but it had not killed him. Honey badgers could take bites from venomous snakes and walk away. A glancing shot from an energy weapon was not going to stop him. Brutus charged at Grath with a fury Danny had never seen before. This was beyond instinct. This was rage. Grath tried to shoot again, but his weapon was overheated. Sparks flew from it. The big Scaleborn threw it aside and pulled out a blade instead. Long and curved, it glowed with heat. "Come then, Earth Beast," Grath snarled. "Let us end this properly." The fight was brutal. Grath was bigger, stronger, and armed. But Brutus was faster, more flexible, and absolutely fearless. The honey badger attacked from every angle, going for weak spots in the armor, targeting joints and exposed areas. Grath swung his blade, cutting through the air where Brutus had been a moment before. The honey badger was already behind him, climbing up the damaged armor, claws finding purchase. Danny watched, helpless. He wanted to help, but he knew he would just get in the way. This fight was between the hunter and the protector. Brutus bit down on the back of Grath's neck where the armor had been damaged earlier. The Scaleborn roared in pain and rage. He reached back, finally managing to grab the honey badger and threw him across the chamber. Brutus hit the wall hard. He fell to the ground and did not get up immediately. Grath staggered, bleeding from multiple wounds. His armor hung in pieces. One eye was swollen shut. He looked at Danny with pure hatred. "You?" Grath gasped. "All of this for you. One human child. Not worth it. Nothing is worth this." He raised his blade, ready to throw it at Danny like a spear. Then the cave filled with light. Bright, clean light that was not from any torch or alien weapon. Human light. A voice boomed through a speaker. "This is Colonial Rescue Service. Put down your weapon. We have you surrounded." Danny looked up through one of the holes in the cave ceiling. A human ship hovered there, larger than Grath's vessel, with rescue markings clearly visible. Ropes dropped down and people in rescue suits began descending. Grath looked at the ship, at Danny, at Brutus, who was struggling to his feet. The big scaleborn's shoulders slumped in defeat. "I should have stayed in legitimate work," Grath muttered. He dropped his blade and raised his hands. The rescue team secured Grath quickly, binding his hands and checking his injuries. More rescuers came down, their practiced efficiency showing they had done this many times before. A woman with captain's insignia approached Danny. "Danny Harris?" she asked gently. "We've been searching for you. Your parents have been so worried. My name is Patricia Walsh." Danny nodded, unable to speak. Now that it was over, now that he was safe, everything hit him at once. He started to shake. "It's okay," Patricia said. "You're safe now. Let's get you checked out." "Wait," Danny said, finding his voice. "Brutus, my friend. He's hurt." He ran to where Brutus lay. The honey badger's breathing was shallow. Burns covered his body. His eyes were barely open. A medic knelt beside them, scanning Brutus with medical equipment. "This animal saved your life?" "Many times," Danny whispered. "Please help him." The medic nodded. "We have veterinary equipment on the ship. Let's get him stabilized and transport him up." They wrapped Brutus in a thermal blanket and placed him in a special carrier with medical monitors. Danny refused to let go of the carrier as they rode the rope lift up to the ship. Inside the rescue vessel, everything was clean and bright and safe. Danny sat beside Brutus's medical pod while the ship's doctor worked on the honey badger. Another medic checked Danny over, treating his cuts and bruises and exhaustion. "You're remarkably healthy considering what you've been through," the medic said. "How long were you alone down there?" "I wasn't alone," Danny said, looking at Brutus. "I had him." Patricia Walsh came to sit beside Danny. She held a datapad showing report information. "We picked up your communicator signal 3 hours ago," she explained. "Been searching ever since. When we detected the scaleborn hunting ship and saw weapons fire in the cave system, we came as fast as we could." "The others?" Danny asked. "From the main crash?" "Most survivors are safe," Patricia assured him. "Your parents and sister are waiting for you at the settlement. They'll be so happy to see you." Danny felt tears coming. He had been so strong, so brave. But now he could finally cry. Patricia put her arm around him and let him. The ship's veterinarian, a kind man named Dr. Reed, approached. "Your honey badger is going to be fine. Tough little creature. I've treated Earth animals before, but never one quite like this. His medical file says he's 3 years old. We found him as a kit," Danny said. "Raised him from a baby. He's part of our family." "Well, he's earned his place," Dr. Reed said. "The wounds look worse than they are, mostly surface burns. His thick skin protected him from serious damage. He'll need rest and medication, but he should make a full recovery." Danny felt a weight lift from his chest. "Can I stay with him?" "Of course." The flight to the main settlement took 2 hours. Danny sat beside Brutus's pod the whole time, watching the honey badger sleep. Sometimes Brutus would twitch or make small sounds, probably dreaming. Danny hoped they were good dreams, not nightmares about scale-born hunters. When they landed, Danny's parents were waiting on the landing pad. His mother ran to him before the ship even fully powered down. She wrapped him in a hug so tight Danny could barely breathe, but he did not care. "My baby," she sobbed. "My baby boy. We thought we lost you." His father joined the hug and his little sister squeezed in too. They stood there on the landing pad, holding each other, crying and laughing at the same time. Finally, Danny pulled back. "Mom, Dad, I need to show you something." He led them to where the medical team was carefully unloading Brutus's pod. His parents stared at the honey badger, seeing the burns and bandages. "What happened to him?" his mother asked. "He saved me," Danny said simply. over and over again. The scaleborn hunters came after me and Brutus fought them all. 5 hunters and he beat them. Well, we beat them together. His father knelt down to look at Brutus through the pod's window. I always knew that badger was special. Never seen an animal so loyal to a person. But this is incredible. Over the next few days, Danny's story spread through the colony and beyond. News reporters came to interview him. Scientists wanted to study the encounter. Galactic authorities questioned him about the illegal hunting operation. Grath and his surviving hunters were arrested. Investigations revealed they had been capturing rare species for years, selling them to collectors in the lawless outer systems. The operation was shut down, and warrants were issued for their buyers. Danny told his story many times, but he always made sure people understood it was not just him. It was Brutus who had turned the tables on the hunters. Brutus, who had shown that size did not matter when you had courage and loyalty. The story reached other alien species. News networks across the galaxy ran the headline, "Human Child and Earth Predator Defeat Professional Hunting Team." Some species were shocked. Others were impressed. All of them gained new respect for Earth's creatures. In the scaleborn communities, hunters began avoiding any system with human presence. A new saying emerged, "Do not hunt humans. They bring their protectors with them." 3 months passed. Danny settled into life in the colony. He attended school, made friends, and slowly stopped having nightmares about being chased through alien jungles. Brutus recovered fully, though he had scars under his fur that only Danny knew about. The honey badger seemed proud of them. On a warm afternoon, Danny and Brutus walked through the safe zones near the settlement. Other colonists would smile and wave when they saw them. Some children asked if they could pet the famous honey badger. Brutus tolerated it patiently, though Danny could tell he thought they were being silly. They reached their favorite spot, a hill overlooking the colony. Danny sat down in the grass and Brutus curled up beside him. "We did good, didn't we?" Danny said. Brutus made a contented sound. "People are still talking about it, about how you beat those hunters, how you protected me." The honey badger looked up at Danny with those small, intense eyes. They seemed to say that protecting Danny was not something special. It was just what you did for family. "I know," Danny said, scratching behind Brutus's ears. "I do the same for you. We're a team." In space, trading ships carried the story to distant worlds. In bars and markets, traders warned each other about Earth creatures. In hunting lodges, professional trackers updated their databases with new information about honey badgers. And on a peaceful colony world, a boy and his honey badger watched the sunset together, both knowing they would face whatever came next as partners. The hunters had learned their lesson the hard way. Never underestimate Earth. Never underestimate the bond between humans and their animals. And most importantly, never hunt a boy whose best friend is a honey badger, because that honey badger will hunt you back. The end.